This is an interview with one of my favorite people, Liz Garratt with Harmony by Design. I met Liz about 5 years ago when I took her Inspired Business Planning course. And I book a session every once in a while, one-on-one with her, because her coaching kind of feels like a therapy session for my business. What I really love about Liz is her approach is very intuitive, gentle, and it's incredibly heart-based. So I think those of you who come from a more holistic approach will really appreciate her slowed down, come from within model of business. In the interview, we talk about many things, but Liz explains this inspired approach. And we talk about turning passion into form or into a business, about balancing the practical aspects of business like paying your bills and meeting your needs with this inspiration, with this calling that is calling you to do your life's work. So I truly love Liz, so I really hope you enjoy her words.
My name is Liz Garratt, and my company is called Harmony by Design. And I'm in transition or unfolding or growth, I guess, growth and change. So I've been on a sabbatical, and so answering that question is a little bit not what it was maybe 4 months ago. I think in short, I support people to practice inspired working and living. My background and my history and sort of where you and I met was through inspired business planning and management support for people who are running their businesses, and their businesses are something sort of coming from the heart or a calling and that sort of thing, and offering business support. And it's sort of expanding and morphing into just really living and working in a very inspired way. And so I'm learning that on my own sabbatical, incorporating it even more for myself, and imagine that that's what will be unfolding more in the work too.
Love that. So tell me about the beginnings of this, because I know that you didn't start in this, you worked in more traditional business settings. So how did it start?
Well, it's kind of funny, I always say, because my career has been a business planner, but really I fell into just about, I feel like, with a little bit of hindsight now, 25, 30 years of hindsight, I see that it was more of an unfolding than it really was that I planned any of it. So I ended up in business school, and then I ended up working for a management consulting company and learning lots about business planning and management and strategic planning and organizational design and planning and structure. And so then I guess a few years later, my boss moved away, and so I started my own company, and I've been doing, I started doing very traditional business planning, so working with individuals and groups, and they would have a dream, they'd have an idea, they'd have a business, and they would come to me to help kind of, how do we put it together, how do we kind of put the pieces together. And so I started my own company in '88, and probably within 10 years had worked with so many businesses and organizations. I just started getting really curious. I started seeing threads and patterns of, when people would first come to me or when they would first embark on a new venture, there'd just be such energy around it and such enthusiasm and excitement, and as they would move through and start trying to put it into a business plan, kind of the life almost got sucked out of it, because it was like, what I observed was they started to kind of adhere more to what the outside world was telling them than where it had come from. So instead of listening to, this is what it was for me, they would hear some accountant or expert or outside person say, if you want to be successful, you need to do this, or this is how you market, this is how you charge, this is how you manage, and they kind of got lost, or that seed of a vision got lost. And so then it ended up being, again, there was just sort of the life came out of it, and that didn't seem right. I thought, that doesn't seem right. So I, in my enthusiasm, had a vision of, it doesn't have to be that way. It could be, that spark should be what's driving the machine, not, and all these other things are really here as support or ways to support it. And so I sort of have that kind of vision and dream, I guess, came to me. And then I sort of been on my own journey in kind of coming up against that myself with, this is the vision of what I want to be doing and how I want to be supporting and helping people. And I come up against all those same things and get beaten down a bit, and the life gets kind of sucked up. So it's been this very fascinating journey for me in practicing it myself as best as I can, while also encouraging and supporting other people to trust that kind of that inner voice to be the manager, or the guiding force. And I'm still on. I literally took a sabbatical because I felt like I needed just to pause again and step back and kind of put things back in order, because I was kind of getting pulled out into the fray of all of that myself. So that's how I am right here, right now.
Wow. So will you walk me through, what's your process in giving direction to your business? Because there sounds like there's some new pieces. What are the steps that you go through on the inside to give your business the new shape or the new direction that you want it to go?
Well, for me, for my own business right now?
Yes.
So really what the sabbatical has been is really to shut everything off. And to, I was saying to you before we started, I feel like I have been practicing inspired working in business for a number of years. And inspired means really just trusting that inner voice to lead me to the next step and the next step and the next step, and not get taken off by kind of outside forces. But I recognized that there was still a part of me that had not surrendered, that was still a little bit scared to really take that final leap and say, you know what, I am going to practice this 110%. I'm going to give it my all and see where it takes me. And I'm going to, even if I'm scared, even if I'm exhausted, I'm just going to show up and really listen. And so when you ask what my process is, it all is that. It's showing up, and really what I've discovered is whatever I'm asked to do, the next step is always easy when it's inspired. It's never more than you can do. What's the hard part is turning off all the other things in your mind that are telling you you need to do other things. And so really this time has been for me of kind of stripping all of that and coming up to it and saying, I hear you, I hear you screaming, and I am going to just acknowledge you're there, and I'm going to turn back to what's in front of me and what I'm being asked to, what the next step is, and I'll take it, and then the next one and the next one. So that's why when you ask what my business will be, one of the things in that is I'm not allowed to actually jump way ahead to 6 months from now. I want to know, where is this taking me, and what's it going to look like, and how am I going to be helping people, and all those things. And it's like, no, just like this kind of code hook comes and just pulls me back and says, get still, it's all here, and you need to be still and quiet and let it come to you, let the next piece come to you. And so that's the process. That's, in a nutshell, that is inspired working and living, whether it's about your work or about your relationships. It's showing up and trusting in that inner wisdom is going to always take you the next step, you know. And you don't need all the strategies that we have come up with to protect ourselves, you know, as we move around the world. We don't need all of those if we just really listen and trust and take the next step. And so I don't know if that answers your question, makes sense. That's my process that I'm in right now. And that really is the process that I've been practicing and teaching, but never completely, I wasn't consciously aware of that, but I realize I never completely surrendered to that in fullness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we go deeper into that? Like, say there is, because last month's Indigo Drinks was about passions and purpose and your life's work.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of people that they might know what the passion is, or they might be stuck on what it is.
Yeah.
And like, where do they go from there to turn it into something?
Right.
So how would, in the same way, like, it's your business is established, but you're expanding it and like bringing out more of you.
Mm-hmm.
But new people, what would you recommend for them?
There's lots of things that come to mind, and so to me, it's all about passion. Like, inspiration is passion. So to me, people who are feeling called to bring something forth, that's who inspired business planning is for, you know.
Yeah.
That's what inspired working and living, and it's to stay true to the integrity of that, you know, to stay true to what it's really about. And so I'm going to sound kind of like a stuck record. This might be my answer to everything you ask, is to get still and quiet, you know, because it's there. What happens is, I mean, and it's so strong and powerful. Like, anyone who, well, I think everyone has a calling, but I think there are those who feel it more strongly or more connected to it maybe than others. And so there's no denying that. You can't actually not do what you're here to do. But I think in our world, we try to take that and we try to plunk it into, let's say, a business format, a business model. And there's some use in that, because, I mean, whether it's a calling inspired idea or it comes from somewhere else, we still have something that we're bringing forth. We still have something that we need people, or we're wanting to reach people, you know. There's still financial pieces. So all of those are the same. But it's not driven by profit. It's not driven by something that model was made to support.
Yeah.
And so to me, the key is that and what's frustrating about it is we have to slow down to hear that. We have to slow down to speed up, you know. I remember one of the people in my life who is just such a great teacher. She said that to me years ago, and their whole company was about, you need to slow down to speed up, because when you're just, there's this drive in us when we're feeling called and inspired, that we have something to do and we got to get on with it, you know. We've got to get out there. And so what do I do next? But sometimes it's kind of in a frantic, impulsive, not really connected and grounded way. And so it accomplishes something, but what would accomplish so much more if you would just take the time to come back and just make sure everything's lined up, you know, everything. This is what this is really about, and this is this is the next step that is going to have the greatest impact. Do you know? And so it's that journey and kind of war with yourself, because and I feel it, and that's a big part of what this process has been for me. I just have I just want to get out. I feel like I'm here to, I want to be serving. I want to be making a difference. I want to be helping, whatever those words are, But when I do it in that kind of frantic, impulsive, just I need to be doing something, it's never as powerful as, I take that hour, which is really hard to do because it's like I got so many other things. But I take that hour and then it's like, oh, and it's just such, like I said, when we connect with that, it's so, the next step is always easy, it's simple, it's manageable, and it's profound. It's impactful. But we have to have the patience and the trust to kind of rein in that energy of, and for me, I'm a trained business planner, so it's like I have this whole script of how you create, how you plan and you build. And so for me, maybe even more than other people, and maybe that's why I need to do this, I have that going and I have to turn that off, or at least stop and say, is that true? Is that really true? Is that how this creation is supposed to come forth?
Wow.
So I'm saying a lot, but really it's my answer is, for me anyway, and again, I don't know that this is for everyone, is when we take the time to still our minds, still all the stories and the ways and strategies that we have been using that maybe aren't really working so well, take still those, and here there's always that wisdom that knows exactly, and it knows where we want to go, it knows where we're supposed to go. So if we can listen to it and risk trusting that, and maybe we hear it wrong or we don't quite get it, but the more you practice, the more you kind of get in tune with, I know when it's that voice as opposed to, one of the other many voices.
What are the consequences of a heart guiding a business?
There are many, probably, and I'm familiar with, I guess that's the one good thing is being on this journey, is I'm familiar, so that it's very seldom that someone will show up with a consequence that I haven't actually experienced, a blessing and a curse. So I think one of them is, a consequence is that things appear to not be moving very quickly. And there's frustration and impatience and disappointment and discouragement sometimes that we come up against because it's not moving as fast as we want it to, or perhaps in the way that we envision it will. What I had said before was the disappointment comes when we don't fully, when we're not fully living and working through inspiration by listening to that inner voice, and we can't live fully like that without a lot of practice. And so when like I said, I think for the last couple years I've been maybe 80% really practicing, following my heart, like okay, what's next, and trusting and stepping and not doing all the things that my mind wants me to be listening to. But because there was still a part of me that was, for all kinds of reasons, not fully immersing myself in it. It didn't always get me where I wanted to go, or I didn't feel that. I couldn't see the tangible results of it all the time. And so it's kind of a slower moving, which is really hard when you're living in an increasingly fast-paced world. And so that brings me to the other one of sometimes kind of feeling left behind or not fit, the more that I am slowing down and really committed to listening to that voice, as I'm developing that, it's hard for me sometimes to be in large groups, a really fast pace, of stuff that I always have loved, like, that kind of synergy you get from that sort of thing. And so I don't think that that's a permanent thing. I think that's kind of as we're transitioning from our guidance coming from outside to having it come from inside and kind of learning how to adjust to that. I think that's a consequence. But again, what my blessing is that my work attracts people who are wanting to follow the heart and are open to slowing down. And so my circles that I run kind of have that energy, so I still get the connection of other people and that synergy, but and I guess in just maybe a little bit slower, quieter ways. So there are kind of consequences and their rewards, depending what mood I'm in. Like if I'm in the impatient, wishing I was out there, wishing that I was, getting on with it, wishing it was something other than it was, then it feels like a consequence. It feels like kind of whereas when I'm in a more expanded place, in a more grounded place, which is what this also takes me to, then I'm able to see the magic in it. I'm able to see the movement, and that satisfies that part of me.
And I suppose one of the exciting consequences is that attracting the clients that are on that path.
Yes. So I know it works.
Yeah.
Do and so it's this, and that's, again, my journey, and it's also my clients' journeys, is when you experience the magic of this, you're hooked. Mm-hmm. Because it's so much easier, it's so much more enjoyable. It's not supposed to be hard. Hard in the way that we've made it hard and complicated and all of that. And so when, as I practice it more, who shows up? People who are wanting what which is the knowing I have in this, is when we are true and we follow that voice, it not only takes us to the right places, but it attracts to us. There's all kinds of books and, all on that. But it's true, when you experience it, then it's not just theory or a concept that's kind of cool. And so for me, that is one of the rewards that keeps me, attracted you to me, attracted you in my circle. And you have the most amazing, deep, meaningful, rich explorations and conversations that bring out the next piece, and then it is this kind of magical mystery unfolding, as opposed to this driven, there's where I want to go and here's all the steps I have to do to get there. But it doesn't leave any room for magic. It doesn't leave any room for something new to come in that could be 100 times easier, 100 times bigger, 100 times better. So, yeah.
I love that. What do you love about your one-on-one coaching?
I think for me, I love the one-on-one because that's where you go the deepest. And for me, it's always richest when you get to the truth. And there's something else magical that happens in the circle that is equally good. But in the one-on-ones, I get to, I get the privilege of seeing, I'll use the word light, because that's what it is for me. As we have conversations in our one-on-one, and neither one of us necessarily knows where it's going to go, but we know when we get there, and when you have that moment where, and you and I have had that, where is you will say something, and I just know, there it is. That's the piece that we needed today, or that's the, and so it just allows us to connect deeply and explore deeply and uncover things that, for me, aren't that easy to uncover, you know, in other ways. So that's what I love about the one-on-one.
What kind of things do people come to you for coaching about? Because I know what I came to you, but I'm curious if there's common threads.
Oh, there's probably common. There's only so many things. Right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting is what people come with. You know, like there's the usual, how do I attract, you know, like what people come for a coach, how do I get this out in the world more? How do I make more money? Or how do I at least survive? How do I attract people? How do I enjoy it? How do I manage my time? You know, how do I enjoy this? How do I put it all, you know, how do I actually enjoy this, really, you know, and create what I want? And so there's all these different questions. Often the doorway into it is through what's not working or what we're banging up against. Do you know, like I just, you know, of course, money, especially for people that it's from the heart. Money seems to be a universal entanglement. You know, that's not across the board, but I think that's a fairly common one. Balance of taking care of me while also serving or following my heart. Fears. Lots of in both individual and I'm in good company with that fear of this sounds crazy, or this doesn't make sense, or people, you know, what other people might think of it. How do I, these are just sort of the things, you know, how do I create that win? Like, you know, how do I make it so that I'm flourishing, but not at the expense of someone else, or how, you know, or someone else. Like, how do we serve so it is highest outcomes for all, you know, like that's a pretty foundational piece for, because nothing else, I mean, it doesn't come from the heart and not need to be that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, is that answering? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, and people who've been in my circle and come for one-on-ones, I guess, are curious about how do you start to go in and listen? Like, how do you know when it's, how do you know when it's your heart or your spirit or whatever you want to call that? And when it's not, you know, how do you maneuver through the noise, you know? Yeah, so all kinds of, it really is, how do I, you know, like at the essence, it's how do I step into what I'm here for fully, completely, deeply, purely, and be safe, you know, be blessed, be financially, again, when it's inspired, and this is, I think, one of the entanglements is the business model that often we try to fit into was designed with the motivating factor of profit. And so it's not that there aren't things in that are really helpful and applicable, but the driving factor of an inspired business, the driving factor is not profit. And so it's, I'm not sure where I went off on that tangent, but so that's a big one, is for people to, that's why it gets confusing and entangled, is because the truth is an inspired business needs to have financial success in order for the vision to come to fruition, for it to be as big as it's supposed to be. It needs money. It needs that to feed it and for it to grow and expand and to reach other people. But there's something, that gets wonky when we're not really clear and aligned with that's the driving force. The driving force is to get out there, whatever it is that we're here to bring. And how does money fit into that?
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to the model of bigger is better, faster is better, more is better. Not necessarily. Possibly. But that's what I mean by when, like for the business planner in me, I have these truths that have been told to me, these stories, this is what is success, this is how you create it. And so much of my journey is coming up to them and saying, is that true? And it may not, and the other thing is it might not be true for me, but it might be true for some. But for all of us to come up to those and not just take them because someone told us that's how you do it, but to really come up and say, does that resonate with me? Is that true for me in this moment? Like, is that what I need to do? Like marketing is probably one of the big ones for me. And me, I've almost kind of retreated. I'm almost scared of something with that because it's like being told you have to be out there in a certain way and this is how you do it. But for me, I can't do it when it's not natural and organic and true, because I just look stupid then. When I'm trying, and I've done that. I've tried to be someone other than who I am, because I understand the genius, and if you do this, you get that. Like, I understand that. But when I try it, something that is not true for me, it doesn't yield success. Whereas if I try something that I know is true for me, and no one else maybe understands or agrees with, it yields success.
Mm.
So I do feel like I'm not just sure where I've gone off. I'm not sure if it's even in line with what the question was that you asked.
No, you intuitively picked up on one of the questions I wanted to ask, because this month is all about business and money, and I know a lot of the folks that lean heart-based and holistic, that's the quandaries sometimes, is like, how do they navigate money and paying their bills and like making the business successful and paying their employees and all that.
Yes.
With
like practical, real.
Exactly, with this approach, inspired approach that you're talking about.
That's the quest. That is one of the main questions, and I don't know that I have arrived, and I don't know that there is an arriving at an answer for that. I think what I'm learning even more in this time of sabbatical is I don't even know if I'm going to be able to have words for this, Kim, because it's still just sort of the pieces coming, but is really marrying those two. Like, I think there seems to be, and I have fell into this myself, almost an either or. Do you know, like an almost surrendering to the physical realities of business, which or this sort of more esoteric spiritual, for lack of a better, of there being something more at play here, and I think for much of my journey, and I see this in lots of my clients, is kind of a war going on. There's something in us that says you have to choose one or the other. And so for me in the sabbatic, and like in this time of stillness and trying to turn off all my preconceived or former thoughts, I just keep getting that we're just making it we're making it way more complicated than it needs to be. And And we're here to bring forth, again, I really don't know if this is going to make any sense, Kim, but when we try to force, it's, to me, what I'm starting to see is where I have created kind of a like this with purpose and money, is when I try to really force, when I try to contain the passion and the purpose and the service and put it into a form that has to directly make money. I see this a lot with people, and there's this struggle, whereas if we can, what's happening for me at this time, and maybe this question you come back and ask me in 4 months, is if we can expand it so it's not this either or, that there's the, yes, I am here to serve, and I am here to take that next inspired step, one after the other, one after the other. And I'll do that no matter what. I'm not going to restrict myself, because I think we get into this, we need to make money, which we do, but then it's almost like something happens where we almost hold back what we're here to give, because we haven't yet figured out how to make money or how to make, so we get entangled. And I think it's to be able to expand to this place, and again, keep going in and trusting that next step. But like for me, I know I've done that in the past because I haven't figured out the money piece. And so there's been a part of me that holds back when it's so natural and wanting to not hold back, of something. And so I need to just let that run wild, or let that run free. But then also not dismiss. Like there's also this part of us in that place. I'm just going to follow my heart, and it will lead to money. And I don't question that that's true. But we somehow abdicate responsibility with that too. And so it's, as much as we embrace and say yes to following our purpose, we also need to, with as much conviction, embrace and say yes to the practical aspects of money and the practical aspects of getting this out there. Like there are expenses. We have to survive. So there's those very basic. There needs to be money for us to live and stay healthy. There has to be money to pay for staff, like you said, or to invest in, marketing, or all those different things. And so it's kind of sticking our head in the sand to just go, I trust. And yet I know this is one isn't fully formed for me yet, but it is something in that when we try to force them when we in our own minds try to decide how we make money off of our vision, we get entangled and we bump up against things. Whereas I think if we just say yes to the next step for how we're here to serve, and we say yes to the next step for how we're here to create whatever we need to support that, it loosens that up, and it leaves more room for possibility. Maybe it's not a direct link. Maybe I just need to keep showing up and taking that next inspired step and being present wherever and to whomever I'm there to be present to in that moment. And maybe the money comes from a completely different way that I had never even thought of. Mm. And maybe it comes exactly how I thought of, but when I remove that need that it has to, and that push and that kind of constriction, then it leaves room for, again, magic to happen. Wow. So these are all formulating reflections, at this time. I don't have the answer, and the other thing I think is is at play here is something much bigger than all of us. I think energies are shifting, and so I think some of this entanglement in this kind of war between service and purpose and money is bigger than us, you know, and it's working itself out. You know, it's working itself out, and we just need to keep showing up and taking our next step, and that indirectly helps shift the bigger energies, but it also then keeps us moving, you know, forward.
My next question is intuitively came before I even came here. It said ask her about creation, and I think after just what you said, the other piece is, I don't know about setting intention in creation. Do you have thoughts on that? I don't even know if it's a question, but
I do have thoughts on that, and I'm gonna name a book that, again, this is an outside thing, but it's not about not going outside. It's not about not taking in all the wisdom and knowledge that other people have also come upon, but it's just really running it through your own filter. So the book that to me captures that whole magic law of attraction thing and gives really just simple practical ways is The Magician's Way by William Whitecloud. And what it talks about, it uses the analogy of golf. You know, I'm not a good golfer anyway. But again, that you, and the first chapter is all about the character goes for a golf lesson. And he's been to many golf lessons, so he's expecting the usual, you know, like you have to stand like this, you have to, you know, all the different things that have to be perfect in order to hit a good shot. And the teacher or the instructor or the golf pro, he basically says, you know, I don't care about any of that. Or he does a couple shots and he asks the student what he was focusing on. And the student said, I'm focusing on my stance, I'm focusing on, you know, all these different things. And he said, well, you know, try just focusing on where you want to go. Like, where do you want your ball to go? And the guy said, I never thought about that, I just want to hit a good shot. And so he says, where do you want the ball to go? And then he gets him practicing with not thinking about all the ways in which what he has to do to get where he wants, and he just focuses on here's the target, here's where I want to get, and he starts, you know, of course, shooting all these great shots, and I think that's it. Like, that's it for me for business planning, because we've been taught you have to do, these are all the conditions that have to be met and in place, and this is what you work on in order to get you there. And there's this kind of easier way of I could just look there and trust my innate knowing, my heart, my soul, my whatever you want to call that, my innate knowing to know exactly what I need to do next to get there. And so for me, a lot of my practice, and again, it takes great discipline for me to, he calls it coming out of your swing circle, when you're, you know, oh, I need this is how that's going to happen, you know, to pull myself back out of that and come back to, you know, what I really want is I just want to be living fully. I want to be bringing forth whatever it is I'm here to bring forth to whoever I'm here to share it with, and I want to be enjoying it. I want to be present. I want to be, you know, if I just focus on that, that's my intention, it happens a lot more often than when I'm over here in my, what he calls the swing circle of, in order for that to happen, I have to call this person, I have to write this out, I have to figure out this, I have to figure out that, I have to, you know, and that's what I mean. Remember at the beginning I said people came with kind of this light and excitement, and by the end of all the things they had to do, they're like, you know, and that's what for me, kind of more mainstream strategies or about, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. So that, I think it's a great book. It's a little out there in all different ways, but for me it just really resonated with what I know inside. What I know to be true is that it does not have to be as complicated as we make it out to be. And if we are quiet and still, and we take the time to really get clear about where is it we want to go, what is it that this is really about. That's what in the circle, that you were the business planning, who are you really, what is this really about, and what do you really want, and you take, because people don't take the time to even ask those questions. So that becomes the intention, the focus, the target. And then we learn to just show up and trust that inner compass is there, and it knows the next step if we just listen to it and we'd stop thinking we're smarter than that. I've had quite a few, it's so funny because the sabbatical has been awesome, because it's kind of put me in my place, because it just shows me, stop thinking, stop putting your nose into something. It's, that's not your part. Your part is to show up and get still and turn that off and listen and trust and take that next step and stay clear on, here's what this is about. And it's about that from my heart. It's, there's all kinds of things I want, but I'm talking about when it's that desire that's in your heart, that there's something that is yearning to be manifested, I guess, if you will, created, brought forth, shared.
Wow. What are your offerings?
Well, again, I've stepped back, so before I went on sabbatical, and I think it's still true that those would be offerings. There's one-on-one coaching. So again, it's just really, it's just that. It's one-on-one sitting, and really the focus being on whoever is there, and and how we can bring forth in an inspired way what they want to bring forth, or what they're here to bring forth. So the coaching.
Tell me more about your circle offerings.
Okay, so the circles are, again, for helping people or supporting people, encouraging people to choose a more heart path, or I guess an inspired path of how do I bring forth whatever. And we do it in small groups. So the night, while you get the depth and that kind of, it's all about you in the one-on-ones, in the group you get the process, and you get kind of the guidance or support. And you also get the companionship of others and the insights of others who are on similar pathways. And like I had said in the consequence piece, sometimes the inspired path, sometimes you feel like you're all alone or you're the only one. And so I know that's been a huge thing, and very deep and meaningful relationships have formed in the circle, and it becomes the support, as well. So, and a sharing of ideas. And again, it's in that, I always call it like down here. So it's not in that frenzied conversation, and you can tell there's a little judgment there. But it's not in that, it's in this the circles are created and held so that people are in that as in that still place as possible. So the conversations and the insights and the sharings come from that place as well. And so in the circle there's individual reflection time, there's my speaking and sharing time, and then there is the sharing of insights and wisdom that's within the circle as well. Yeah. All with the intention of supporting each person to go deeper, to trust more in following their heart and bringing forth. It's kind of a cheering circle too. So
wow. Are those the two offerings that you wanted to highlight? The one on
I think so.
surface?
I think I just need to say, I took this sabbatical for the winter, and it's unfolding that it's probably going to extend through the summer, but the really intense, or the complete kind of stop piece feels like it's come to an end. So if people are interested, just call me if they're interested in the individual, and even if they're interested in the group, and if there's enough, because I come back and forth. I have a cabin that is my little retreat place in Golden, but I sort of fell into this rhythm of, there and here, and so I guess all I'm saying is I'm not full on board working right now, and choosing things that really still allow me to be in my own process. But there's some energy in kind of connecting with others and sharing what I'm learning and hearing more about where other people are. So just probably best to reach me through my website says how to get hold of me. So.
And what's your website?
harmonybydesign.ca.